Okay, good morning. Kevin Miller in the morning, kicking off the new year with you and me at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So over the holidays, we had Elizabeth Warren deciding that she's going to run for president. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll also talk about the Moms for Marijuana. They want to bring marijuana to the Gem State. Are you down with that? And by the way, the government is still shut down. The national parks have been trashed. How dare it happen?
I feel like it's really important to keep some basic operations in place, to keep some restrooms open, to keep the trash collection going and those kinds of things.
There we have it. It is so important to keep the restrooms open and cleaned, right? And cleaned. Coming up, will the president have a challenge from Mitt Romney when it comes to running for office? If you haven't heard the news, Mitt Romney has a big op-ed calling the president's December slide despicable, you name it. We'll talk a little bit about it. But the president of the United States calls him a flake. You just heard that at the top of the hour, right? Could we see Mitt Romney, not John Kasich and others, going after the president and primarying him? I don't know if that would work. Mitt Romney, blessed to be the senator from Utah, but is this how he wants to kick off his Washington experience by doing this? So we'll talk a little bit about that. And coming up, we'll show you, again, a slow news story yesterday. We've got, four? Is it four? 5 Moms for Marijuana that are outside the State House. Now, I've been at the State House where we've had not hundreds, but thousands of people and not get any type of media coverage. And yet here we have this story from our news partners at Channel 7 covering this issue where you have the Moms for Marijuana saying they want the marijuana. Do you want marijuana in Idaho? Let's take a listen.
Protest Idaho's very harmful and outdated marijuana laws.
Every New Year's Day, this group from Legalize Idaho and Idaho Moms for Marijuana kicks off the year with a protest. Sarah Frank drove from Oregon to be part of this event. She says she lives there in exile dealing with a medical condition because her home state of Idaho hasn't legalized marijuana.
I drove an hour and a half to be here to protest because I want to come home.
To send their message, Frank and other protesters gathered.
Now, before we get that, again, that's fairly strong, where all of a sudden you're having a woman saying she's living in exile, as if living in Oregon is a bad thing. Now, we've openly called for the annexation of the state of Oregon, at least the conservative parts, to join Idaho. But here you have a young lady that drives an hour and a half every year to do this. Well, that's not really a big deal, is it?
Items that are legal in Idaho that they say are more dangerous than marijuana. Items like alcohol, tobacco, and donuts.
Marijuana is safer than every single thing you see here. But these are all legal in Idaho. But
now, wait a minute. I resemble that donut remark. You're telling me that marijuana is safer than donuts. Now, I would have loved to have been available, but I was hanging out with Larry and others at the Polar Bear Plunge. You're telling me that a donut is more dangerous to your health than smoking a joint. Now, some people will call in at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, and say, yes, Kevin Miller, look at you. You're not the picture of health. You've had too many donuts. You resemble a donut. You are a donut. You are a bell pepper. And they would be correct. But a donut is illegal. A donut is something you consume. A donut is nutritious. A donut is, tasty. Maybe not nutritious, but delicious. And you're going to sit there and do this? It's just kind of crazy. But the next 2 years, we're going to have a lot of crazy.
marijuana is not.
Protesters also officially announced that they'll be seeking a new marijuana legalization ballot initiative aimed for 2020.
In February, we will be having a lobby day for Legalize Idaho. We have a lot in the works for the next 2 years as this petition comes out to really make our voices heard.
The state of Idaho is bordered by 6 states in Canada. Of those places, most have some form of legal marijuana. With that in mind, Frank says they feel the momentum is now in their favor.
The rest of the country is passing us by, and we are completely surrounded on our little island of prohibition here.
Of course, though, there are 2 very different sides of this issue.
We're an island of sanity and a sea of insanity.
This past fall, Keep Idaho, A branch of Drug Free Idaho launched a new education campaign about the dangers of legalizing marijuana.
We have a narrative right now of there's zero bad things that happen when you have more marijuana. And we just don't think that's the case. So this is just what we do as a prevention organization.
Rob Stevenson, executive director of Drug Free Idaho, says as more states legalize marijuana, Keep Idaho wants to simply get the facts out.
The goal is to show people the other side of the fence. What the narrative is it brings in all kinds of taxes and there's absolutely no problems with it. And that's just not the case. And we want to educate our fellow Idahoans to what else comes with that.
Legalization supporters say they hope to have a conversation about the facts in 2019, but they're confident that the people of Idaho will support them towards legalization.
The people of Idaho want it. You know, the politicians might not. We don't care what they say. We're the people. This is our Capitol building.
You live in Oregon, lady.
We're going to make this happen.
All right. Excellent story from Joe Paris. Kevin Miller in the morning here. So, very simple at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You have the woman there, the young lady, living in exile in Oregon. I don't think Oregon's a bad place to live. Of course, they do have a lot of pot shops. They do have a lot of stinky people that smoke the pot. But, you know, hey, that's what they have the extra and degree for. She says she wants to come back. She says the people of Idaho want the legalization of marijuana. And as we've detailed, more fatalities, more people using, a strain on our already overstrained medical, emotional, mental health support systems. And this is their plan. Legalize the weed. To me, it makes no sense. Again, we can't deal with people drinking and driving. You heard about the new state law that was passed. After your first drinking and driving conviction or plea, you get the breathalyzer. What do you mean? You get that, you know, like people vaping, except to start your car, you have to breathe into the breathalyzer. And if you blow a .8, you can't start your car. In Utah, they have lowered the amount of alcohol you can have to drive. It's what, 0.05 now, or 0.05, I guess. The national thing is 0.08 or 0.8. So you have some states like Utah, like Idaho, cracking down on this. You know, we have concerns. We've talked a little bit about the need for government regulation. You know, we have a distracted driving law. Whether or not the legislature should take a look at doing hands-free, I think they should. Too many people texting and driving on two-lane roads here in the Treasure Valley. It is a danger. We don't want you. We don't want to lose you. We don't want to lose your family. I certainly don't want to lose anybody because somebody was texting and driving. We can run all the public service announcements about texting and the like. It's not going to stop it. What will stop it? $100, $200 fine. You get that a few times, I think you'll pay attention when you're on the road. Your friends can wait. Going back to marijuana, you have people saying, you know, Kevin Miller, I like the marijuana. I have to travel to Oregon to get high. I have to travel to Colorado to make this happen. We're an island of prohibition. What's wrong with that? And I still believe once we get a crime-fighting attorney general, like we had with Jeff Sessions, although we didn't agree with him on everything, that we're going to have a return to the national prohibition on pot smoking. So this whole idea of legalization, look at the people that have the pro-marijuana facilities. They can't use banks. So in my mind, and I get my legal education by watching Law and Order Criminal Intent, in my mind, it's still illegal. If a bank will not touch your money, then it's not legal. So even though you have states breaking federal laws by legalizing marijuana, the banks that are still regulated by the Fed and everyone else are not touching their money. That is a big deal. So at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, your thoughts on whether or not you're ready for this. I don't think it's going to happen. And you have 5 people that every year, God bless them for being committed. And God bless them for having an opinion. And God bless them whether we agree with them or not. It's great to see people passionate about an issue. I don't believe that there is any political wind to make that happen. Now, a lot of people say, well, Kevin Miller, I think that we're going to have marijuana legalized before we have the grocery tax repealed. I hope not. I hope not. But for those legislators getting ready, hey, I'm getting my new suit on. I'm getting ready to roll. Brad Little's going to be the new governor. I just got elected. That grocery tax is a big issue. And, you know, just like being elected to the House or to the Senate here in Idaho, it's every 2 years. And why did we get a gun bill passed? A concealed carry without a permit? Because the politicians understood that there was an election coming up. So maybe we won't get it this year. I hope we're wrong. That's what I'd like to see as agenda item number one. That's the ROI that the electorate needs and demands and wants, a return on investment. Because then you can see it. Like the Trump tax cuts. You saw that. You got your money back. Right? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Again, we'll talk a little bit about marijuana and the grocery tax next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
You know, this shutdown is affecting thousands of federal workers who aren't going to be getting a paycheck this pay cycle. And they're taking to social media to talk about, you know, what they're worried about, how they're going to pay their bills. And we want to read some of those to you.
Yeah, this federal worker tweets, let's put it up on the screen. We are both veterans. Husband has 20 years of service with 4 combat tours. We will not be able to pay our mortgage if this persists.
For this federal worker, paying medical expenses is a worry, saying my insurance premium is $600 per month. My son's insulin and pump supplies are an additional $600 per quarter, barely making it. Now I'll be going to work, paid in the future.
And from another federal worker, I am a furloughed Fed. I spent today calling the banks for the mortgage and the car loan, the electric company, the gas company, the credit card company. I have some savings, so I'll be okay for a bit. Won't be buying the new car to replace the 17-year-old Toyota now.
And one more here. Got some things for Christmas that I'm not unpacking. And receipts are in my purse, so I can return if needed for grocery money.
There we have it. Do you feel sorry for the government workers? That was from CNN, and obviously we're getting one narrative there, and we're so grateful at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. To be able to give you the other side of the story, because we don't really get that, right? We really don't get the other side of the story from the media. If you were listening earlier, Krista Huff joining us, and she's sitting there telling us, Kevin Miller, things are good. And look, I don't want to vilify people working for the government, but, taking to social media and everything else, is that really appropriate? At 580-5436. 580-KIDO. This is the second largest government shutdown ever. And then we don't really have, my friends, we really don't have people in pain. I mean, the military is still being funded. Social Security is still being funded. Everything else is still being funded. The people that are pumping up the pain is the media. And it really comes down to the wall. Here's what's at stake. And you, my dear friend, whether I know you or I don't know you, you have had to face adversity. And when you see your children or your children's children or just any kids, you wonder how they will face adversity. And what happens when your back is to the wall? And we have the vultures, the crows, whatever you want to call them, the DLL, the devious little libs, wanting to embarrass, humiliate, and take down this president. Now, I'm sorry. There are people in the Republican Party that we admire. We think they do a great job. But the Republicans in the House and the Senate have to look at themselves and say, we had 2 years of majority control. We didn't get the wall built. We had 2 years of majority control, and we didn't reform Obamacare. In fact, the Republicans' plan was to make it worse for all of us. I don't understand that. I don't know, hey, we're going to reform everything and your premiums are going to go up. No, I don't. And please don't tell me how to make the aspirin. Just give it to me to make the pain go away. That's your job. Folks, you make $170,000 a year and you're telling me you're going to make my medical situation worse? Doctors are going to work less. Insurance companies are going to have more of an influence and stick it to us? And one of the great movies of all time, The Rainmaker, John Grisham, talking about the insurance companies and how they prey on people. Not all insurance companies, obviously. We don't want to paint with a broad brush. But when it comes to the Obamacare thing, the insurance companies made out. They still make out. The rest of us, not so much. So we bring people in like a new hire, like these commercials we hear all the time. Hey, a new hire can do wonders for you. And we hire people to represent us, and they failed. Now, Donald Trump, is he perfect? No. But Donald Trump said, look, build the wall. Why didn't we do this in 2 years? Well, we wanted the media to like us. We wanted the press to like us. They don't. They hate us. It's not going to happen. How many of us have been through this at work? We have a boss. The boss has his favorites, plays his favorites. And you just don't click with, we have that here. I'm sure you have it there. Some people you click with, some people you don't. It's great when you click with someone, but not so much if you don't. So now you have Nancy Pelosi, who's been embarrassed because of the debacle of the 2016 election, because real America rose up and supported Donald Trump. They want to stick it to him. They don't want to give him a wall. They don't want to give him anything. So they can say, look, Trump's a liar. He colluded with the Russians. He's a con man, and he's going down. And they want to make an example out of him, whether it's Mueller, whether it's Pelosi, whether it's Chuckles Schumer. That's what we're up against. And Donald Trump, to his credit, did not back down, has not backed down, and said, look, it's the wall or nothing. Right? Coming up, I do want to take a look at just the Trump cabinet. It's a fascinating look. And by the way, don't let me have all the time by myself. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. It's kind of like the old days where Kevin Miller talks to himself in the morning. So here we have a fascinating makeup of the Trump organization. And we'll get back to the wall, get back to Congress at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. But a fascinating look, because here you have the president and his people, his family, and probably Corey Lewandowski, who's been on this program before. They were the Trump team. Then you have the Steve Bannon contingent from Breitbart, who jumped in there and kind of mixed it up. Then you have the establishment folks. And little by little, you see the establishment folks being weeded out, the Breitbart folks being weeded out, everybody else being weeded out. And this is what Trump has as what's left. People that are loyal to him. Mick Mulvaney, now the acting chief of staff. I don't know. Look, if I were John Kelly or Mattis or Tillerson, I don't think that I would badmouth the president. It's beneath them. And we go to a man who always has an opinion, Max in Garden City, back from his international tour with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Max.
Good morning. I heard you say you had to talk to yourself, and I thought, I need to join into that conversation.
Sure, go ahead. Appreciate it.
Well, it's always, sometimes it's frustrating, but as long as we have faith in Mr. Trump and we sign petitions and we do things, I think the country's going to hold together. I mean, let the Congress come up with this bill. If the Senate has already said that they're not going to address it, if the president won't sign it. And even if both sides turn on him, he has the power to veto. And I don't know if they have the power to override his veto.
Well, then the government will stay shut down.
Yeah, how about that? Doesn't that break your heart?
It doesn't break my heart, but you have the media once again taking sides and saying that this is a bad thing, the president's bad, that sort of thing.
With the media, the sky is always falling. And where Trump is concerned,
unless it's Obama, yes.
Yeah, as far as Trump's concerned, he's the one pulling the sky down. Just ask anybody in the mainstream media. It's unbelievable. I can't even trust Fox News half the time. I can't believe the stuff you hear. I just wanted to give you a little thumb up here. You're doing a good job. Hang in there. And I have enough faith in the president that I came back to the United States because of President Trump. I'd been living in China. I needed to go to a more developed country. I was ill. And my wife and I had both decided that if Hillary Clinton had won the election, we would settle in Singapore. And we waited and we watched. And when Trump won the election, we both decided, let's go back to the United States and fight the good fight.
Well, welcome home, Max. Welcome home.
It's good to be back in the United States. Guys, all my friends out here in Idaho, you don't know how good you've got it unless you've lived abroad. And I don't mean a few weeks tour of the Great Wall of China or some such nonsense. But if you've lived in Australia or Britain or China, you really start understanding just how wonderful a country we have. How, despite its flaws, despite the many faults and foibles of these morons in Washington, we still manage to be the greatest country in the world with the most promise in the world. It's our job to keep it that way. It's our job to make sure that Queen Hillary does not ascend to the throne, nor any of her minions or any of Obama's trainees. Don't let any of them get up into Washington.
Max,
it's a hard fight.
Max, we appreciate it. Thank you.
You take care, my friend.
Thank you. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
And we go live to London. Simon Owen joining us. Simon, Happy New Year.
Hey, Kevin, and to you.
So here we have an American detained by the Russians. The Russians say he's a spy. I see his photos on social media. He's holding a dog. He looks like a okay guy to me. What's up with that?
Yeah, this is a man called Paul Whelan. He is a retired U.S. Marine who is now believed to work for an auto parts maker in Michigan in the corporate security field. And his family say that he'd traveled to Russia to attend a wedding last week, and then he suddenly disappeared. Russia's Federal Security Service is not giving much away, just confirming that Paul Whelan has indeed been arrested. It says he's been arrested for espionage. He was caught during an espionage operation, they say, but beyond that, they're not offering any information. And his family say that he is innocent and that they are deeply concerned for his safety.
Well, I guess he should not be going to Russia for weddings. It's kind of odd that, you would have someone accused of this. Usually aren't spies in the country for a long time or something of that nature?
Well, I mean, look, spies can operate in all sorts of fields and operations in different styles, and it may well be that this is something where Russia has indeed, perhaps, who knows, maybe they really believe they caught him red-handed doing some kind of espionage activity, but his family is adamant that he is innocent. And given the current poor state of relations between Russia and the U.S., questions are being asked about whether there is another motive here. That it's been suggested that perhaps Russia is trying to line up a prisoner swap involving a woman called Maria Butina, who was in the news a lot last year. She is a Russian pro-gun lobbyist who is facing prison now in the United States after pleading guilty in U.S. federal court last month to acting as a Russian agent who had been tasked with influencing American conservative groups. This has been quite the story already in recent years. And so the suggestion is that maybe the Russians were looking for an American to pick up on whatever grounds, with the idea being that they would try and line up a prisoner swap further down the line. Now, that's just one theory, and that's what some Russia watchers are suggesting might be going on. President Trump's top diplomat, Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, has been speaking about this in the past couple of hours. He has said that the U.S., essentially, it seems, is still waiting to learn more about what exactly Paul Whelan has been charged with. And more than that, Mike Pompeo said that he was hopeful that embassy officials in Moscow would get what they call consular access to see Paul Whelan in prison sometime today, in the coming hours, he talked about. Now, we think he was arrested nearly a week ago, so that's quite a few days when the Americans have been unable to get access to speak to this man, so he is in Russian custody with, it would appear, no access to American support. But Mike Pompeo, Secretary Pompeo, said that he wants to know more. He's demanding the Russians say more, and he says that if the detention is not appropriate, we will demand his immediate return.
What's the criminal justice system like in Russia? Is that different than, if you're a spy, I guess that's what the KGB or whomever, it's not handled by the police there?
Well, they'll do things slightly differently, as is the case in any country, but ultimately the espionage charges that have been leveled against Paul Whelan come with between 10 and 20 years in prison if he's convicted. His case is being processed by the Federal Security Service, Russia's main domestic intelligence agency. Perhaps not a surprise given that it's a spying case. But as I say, it's hard to predict where this might go, given that the Russians are saying so little about what they suspect Paul Whelan has done.
To be continued, again, troubling. Simon, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Simon Owen joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Other news going on. The migrants have been gassed at the border. Let's get the latest from Tanya J. Powers on KIDO Talk Radio.
American authorities were seen by an Associated Press journalist firing tear gas into Mexico to repel about 150 migrants in the first hours of the new year. U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials say the gas was aimed at rock throwers, even though it affected women, children, and journalists. Rodney Scott is the chief Border Patrol agent for the San Diego sector.
One agent was hit square in the face with a rock. Luckily, he had his helmet and shield on and was not seriously injured.
Customs officials say 25 migrants were detained. Tanya J. Powers, Fox.
Well, thank you, Tanya J. Powers. We hit the button on you a little too soon, but at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, this is another story that's going to happen. We're gassing women and children, but, again, we have this issue where we put the women and children up front. We're attacking people. Obviously, if anyone has ever dealt with law enforcement, we have to sit back and say to ourselves, guys, quite frankly, you can't do that. You can't throw rocks at the police. They're going to protect themselves. And again, this seems to be a recurring theme of 2019, like it was a recurring theme of 2018, that we just sit back and say, and take it. No, we can't. These guys have to protect themselves. Of course, the press will attack them. In other news of the day, Mitt Romney getting ready to be sworn in as the newest senator from Utah, replacing Senator Hatch after a long tenure, decides to trash President Trump. That's right, saying that the Democrats are not so bad to work with. Dan Bongino earlier this morning on Fox and Friends had this to say. Well, I guess the sound...
Here's the problem we have, Ainsley. What are our other options? The Democrats want to destroy the country immediately. The swamp rat Republicans are the managed decliners. Don't worry, we'll just manage the decline of the country while we all keep our bow ties on and eat our foie gras lunches and get our money from our lobbyists. But you don't have a choice. This is, in the world of ethics, it's all about gray. It's never black and white.
There you have it. And we have the big government showdown coming up today at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. By the way, we started the hour, and it was amazing. I really didn't get a lot of takers on this. The Moms for Marijuana. Did you hear about this? At least 5 or 6 people every year go to the State House on New Year's Day, and they pledge to legalize marijuana. In fact, they have a name for Idaho, calling it the Island of Prohibition. And in this Island of Prohibition, what they do is they stack stuff up at the bell, and they say that alcohol, donuts, some other things are more dangerous than marijuana. Cigarettes are more dangerous than marijuana. Of course, probably vaping now as well. And what did we have? A big national report that more kids are vaping than smoking cigarettes, and vaping, because of the flavor and everything else, could cause more harm than cigarettes. And you have people vaping everywhere. But we're not talking about banning vaping now, are we? We're not talking about banning cigarettes. But we are talking about legalizing something that has been illegal for quite some time, that has known side effects, that is a known gateway drug. And you can always tell someone who smokes the marijuana, because most of the time they're lethargic. Most of the time they're not very ambitious. Most of the time they're very chill. I will say this, having known and probably still know people that partake in smoking marijuana, they just kind of sit back and they're very mellow. So it's very good at, I would assume, lowering your blood pressure. I would assume that if you took the marijuana, you don't get much of a hyperactivity. And maybe that's a good thing for some people. But the idea to legalize it, and again, we've talked about this earlier, the new legislative cycle coming up. New governor coming in, new legislature, to me, and I know you would agree, that we should sit back. We shouldn't sit back. We should demand that the grocery tax is repealed. That should be priority number one. Repeal the grocery tax. Because didn't everybody running for office promise that? Well, Kevin, you're not familiar with the bait and the switch. The bait and the switch? Yes. We promise one thing, and then we're going to say, not so fast, my friend. That's one item. Obviously, protecting the border. To me, I admire the president. I think he's doing the right thing when we're talking about the wall. And I'm talking about the wall, not border security. I'm talking about the wall. Now, you have other people saying the wall is something else. It's a metaphor.
The wall has become a metaphor for border security. And what we're talking about is a physical barrier where it makes sense. In the past, every Democrat has voted for these physical barriers. It can't be just about because Trump wants it, we no longer agree with it. There's nothing immoral about a physical barrier along the border in places that make sense.
I would agree with Senator Graham, but I do agree that a wall is what we need. And then you have other people saying, well, they can tunnel under it. Well, we'll build a wall underneath it. We don't have there are places where we don't have walls, and the drug people have tunnels anyway. But to stop 90% of the people coming into this country illegally, it would have to be a wall. We'll talk to you next. 580-5436. 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. So there you have the President of the United States saying, let's build the wall. If we're not going to build the wall, then no deal.
But we've got to move away from the blame game, blaming the president, blaming the Democrats, Pelosi and Schumer and others, and get back to doing what we're sent there to do, to fund the government.
There we have it. That is Senator Richard Shelby of Alabama saying it's time to fund the government. But again, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, I don't think we really missed anything.
All of this will end, we don't know when, in negotiations. It's not a question of who wins or loses. Nobody's going to win this kind of game. Nobody wins in a shutdown. We all lose, and we kind of look silly.
Perhaps we do look silly, but what if the government was shut down and nobody missed it? Sure, we'd miss the TSA folks. We'd miss the air traffic controllers. We'd miss, well, I don't know what else we'd miss, but we'd miss them. We'd miss the border agents. We'd miss everything else. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, I don't think a lot of people miss the government. Now, we heard earlier Rachel Sutherland saying that the IRS is shut down. Now, I'm sure there are some people that work at the IRS that are good people. But on the other hand, what's wrong with not being audited?
Hello. Because of the federal government shutdown, Abraham Lincoln Birthplace National Historical Park is now closed.
There we have it. You want to see Lincoln's birthplace? That's not going to happen either. We're not going to have people negotiate. Pelosi and Schumer want to embarrass the president. Now, the president has gotten himself into a hole. It's like a great giant football game. And maybe we can use what happened recently in college football where you had the University of Georgia, their big football team in the South, obviously Georgia. They were mad that they were left out of the college football playoff. Okay? 4 teams get in. Georgia was number 5. So when Notre Dame lost to Clemson, Georgia was tweeting. And I know if you're an analog native like most of us, the tweeting thing just doesn't resonate. People love did you look at the Twitter? Look at that hashtag. Okay, it's a currency. Kind of like Bitcoin. Some people buy it, some people don't. The media loves it. Other people love it. Kids love it. So Georgia was chirping on Twitter. Hey, we would have won. Notre Dame didn't deserve to be there. Oklahoma didn't deserve to be there. So they had a game last night against the University of Texas. The Longhorns. The Longhorns wanted to play. The Longhorns beat the Bulldogs rather decisively. And that's what we have here. You have to play the game. And as you heard from the clips that Ray and I put together, the president is all in. Now, what the Democrats want to do, and you know this, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to explain this, They want to embarrass him. They want to humiliate him.
Whatever it takes. I mean, we're going to have a wall. We're going to have safety. We need safety for our country, even from this standpoint. We have terrorists coming in through the southern border. We have the terrorists also coming in, fellas, through the southern border. Because you know why? It was always the easiest.
Right. We have terrorists and illegals coming in, and you have one party that says, we're not really interested in doing anything. That's the Republicans. The Democrats saying, you're a racist if you even talk about the wall. And then we have one man that says, look, we need to do this.
We've already built a lot of wall. We're building a lot more, just through the normal budget. And we fixed a tremendous amount of wall.
That is the President of the United States. That doesn't stop the media from taking sides in this case and saying that the President doesn't know what he's doing. Because remember, the President himself has, said, look, we need to do this. So we're going to get a clip here from NBC where they say that if you support the wall, you're racist. Crazy.
He's tweeting. Not sure if he's working, but he's tweeting. When do his advisors come back, and does that really matter, frankly?
On this issue, not really, because as we talked about before, this is all about the fight. You could make the argument, as we have, that this border wall is really about Donald Trump needing to have the optics, needing to have the appearance of putting up a fight about something that his base cares about. And the reason why this shutdown is now stretched into its, 10th, going on 11th day, is because this isn't about a substantive policy issue, as we've just mentioned. It's about politics. And the reward that Donald Trump wants in getting funding for this wall is just as intense as it is to block, as it is for Democrats to block it. Michael Gerson had a great piece in the Washington Post. He's the former Bush speechwriter. And he said that this wall would really just be a monument to Donald Trump's bigotry and his vanity. And that is why Democrats are so intent on keeping him from having it.
Right. A border wall. So when you have a wall at your home, when you have a door at your home to keep out the bad people, when you have a security system at your home, that's a monument to bigotry? If you have something in your home, shouldn't we have that as a country? Think about that for a moment. It's going to heat up between now and 2020, folks, and we're going to be with you hopefully every step of the way. Traffic and weather together. Kevin Miller in the morning.
I'm News Channel 7's Eric Gebert.
We need a wall. So when you say how long is it going to take, when are they going to say that we need border security? When are the Democrats going to say? Don't forget, the Democrats all agreed that you need a wall until I wanted it. Once I wanted it, they didn't agree.
There we have it, the magic of the president. Phone numbers here, 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Coming up, Lars Larson will join us. We'll get his thoughts on a variety of issues as we continue to roll out the new year, kicking it off. And a story that we're going to be covering for quite some time. It's a story we first brought you, was it 6 months ago? An Idaho biology teacher accused of feeding a live puppy to a snapping turtle in front of students will go on trial beginning Thursday. Preston Junior High School teacher Robert Crossland was charged with one count of misdemeanor animal cruelty in June after allegations surfaced in March. According to the Idaho State Journal, he's pled not guilty and will face a 2-day jury trial at the Franklin County Courthouse in Preston with about 5,300 people. Remember, they filmed Napoleon Dynamite there in 2004. If convicted, Crossland faces up to 6 months in jail and a $5,000 fine. Idaho Attorney General David Morse has requested the trial be moved outside Franklin County, or at least include potential jurors who live outside the county, because Mr. Crossland is so popular in Preston. In fact, you had people signing petitions to keep the gentleman there. By the way, the turtle did nothing wrong. The turtle was just doing its job, and the state came in and killed the turtle. Turtle seems to be paying for Mr. Crossland's alleged crimes. I don't know how you can plead not guilty of animal cruelty when you have witnesses there, when people were saying, oh, he's an innovative teacher. Perhaps this has happened before. We don't know the details, but it seems open and shut. Why not plead this out, save the community, save the state, the national embarrassment of this case? And personally for me, I don't know anyone in their right mind, and yes, I said that, in their right mind, that could see the value of feeding a puppy, a live puppy, to a snapping turtle and call it education. Now, maybe somebody can educate me on that. I don't see the value of this. Of course, we don't live in Preston. It's not our thing. However, that's not educational. Well, it was done after school. It was done on school grounds. The school should be responsible for it. Mr. Crossland should accept responsibility. Now, $5,000 fine, 6 months in jail. We'll talk about it next. We're just getting rolling. Happy New Year, everybody. Kevin Miller on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Your home for Fox News in the Treasure Valley. Good morning.